Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the Northeast. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, high pressure settling in across the eastern two-thirds of the country is going to mean a lot of sunshine from the Northeast into the Corn Belt as we go through our Friday. Checking in with the radar picture, some light showers across portions of lower Michigan. We've got some showers and storms along a frontal boundary pushing off across the Atlantic, and some very light showers across portions of the central and southern high plains as well. Otherwise, a pretty quiet start to our Friday across the lower 48. And as we take a look at temperatures across the region, 50s and 60s for just about everyone from the Northeast into the Midwest over the overnight into Friday morning here. The warmer and muggier air being kind of pushed off the Atlantic coast here by that frontal boundary here early this morning. We're going to continue to see cooler and drier air settling into the Northeast from the north right now, with a cold front spreading into the region as we head through the weekend, again bringing a cooler and drier air mass into the region. That's going to keep us quiet as we head into the middle part of next week. Looking at the forecast for precipitation through the weekend, maybe seeing some showers along that frontal boundary as it makes its way in, but we've already seen one front move through, kind of taking the deeper moisture with it. So likely looking at maybe some scattered showers across the region as we head through the afternoon and evening hours. Precipitation going to be pretty sparse, maybe a couple, hundredths of an inch, maybe a trace here and there as you head off to the north, but just about everyone remaining on the dry side here as we head through the next 60 hours. We're going to be talking about a dry pattern here across the Corn Belt into the Northeast over the next week or so because of this kind of flow. As we head through the next few days, starting off on Friday here, we've got this kind of ridge in the west, broad trough across the Great Lakes into the Northeast region. That's the reason for the slightly cooler air mass already making its way through. We're going to see another shortwave coming out of Ontario through the Great Lakes as we head through the weekend, and this one's going to become a cutoff low across the Mid-Atlantic. That's kind of going to, with this ridge across the central U.S., going to keep us pretty quiet. So the cutoff low here across the Mid-Atlantic, that's going to lead to some heavy rain across that region. Otherwise, we've got this ridge across the region, broadly speaking, across the Great Lakes into the Northeast, with the stronger jet stream winds being deflected northward from the northern plains into the Canadian Prairie, and that is going to be a shutdown in precipitation across the region as we head through the next 5 to 7 days, and that's reflected as we look at the next week's forecast of precipitation in terms of a departure from normal. Again, a lot of brown shading across the eastern two-thirds of the country, from all the way from the Gulf of Mexico into the Northeast, and that does include a big section of the northern plains as well. Again, the only hot spot for precipitation across the eastern two-thirds of the country is going to be with that cutoff low across portions of the Mid-Atlantic. We'll take a look at this in motion here with the precipitation forecast from the European model. Again, the frontal boundary making its way through here over the weekend, maybe seeing some light showers across the north as we head through the Friday afternoon and Friday evening hours. Otherwise, high pressure settles in as we head through the weekend. This is Sunday and Monday. Dry across the Northeast. Here's that heavy rain setting up across the Mid-Atlantic. Parts of the Carolinas getting some very heavy rain as we head through the weekend into early next week. High pressure still dominating here as we get into Tuesday. This is now Wednesday. This is Thursday. This is more of the same. Heavy rain across the Mid-Atlantic, dry in the Northeast. Here is Friday. And now Saturday and Sunday. As we get into June 20th, June 21st, June 22nd, that's when I think we're going to start to see the precipitation starting to slowly settle back into the Northeast and the central U.S., flipping us back to a slightly more active pattern across the Corn Belt and the Northeast. But as we just take a look at total accumulated precipitation, looping this here through Saturday, getting into Sunday. Now we're taking this on into Monday, Tuesday, now Wednesday and Thursday. If I just go ahead and bring it back a hair here, we're all the way through Thursday now. So between now and June 19th, nothing in the way of measurable precipitation across the Northeast region. It's not until we get into June 20th, June 21st, June 22nd that maybe we start to work back into a more active pattern. And that's because of some changes in the upper level pattern. We're going to go from a pattern here with this trough in the northwest, the cutoff low, this trough across the Mid-Atlantic, jet stream flow doing something like this. We've got a big ridge dry across the Midwest into the Northeast. As we head into June 21st through the 26th, this trough moves up to the northeast across the Hudson Bay. We get rid of the cutoff low here. We kind of amplify this trough here across the Aleutian Islands. So now we've got fast jet stream winds coming in across the Pacific Northwest over the ridge in the west. Now we've got northwest flow coming in across the Great Lakes, the Midwest, into the Northeast. That changes the trajectory of the surface flow. If we look at the surface winds here over the next several days, the weekend into early next week, The winds, look at the Gulf of Mexico. We've got them coming from the east out of the northeast off the Gulf of Mexico. So certainly not drawing moisture northward from the Gulf of Mexico over the next several days. That is the reason for the drier air mass across the region. But as we kind of make those changes in the upper level flow, we see a response at the surface such that by around June 22nd here, again, I kind of signaled around June 20th, 21st, 22nd. That's when I think we'll see that change. Now we're drawing the air northward off of the Gulf of Mexico. We've even got frontal boundaries then kind of moving through this region. So that sets up the stage for a much more active pattern here. As we look at the European ensemble forecast on the left, the GFS ensemble on the right, we've got good agreement and a change to a much more active pattern here from the central U.S. into the northeast region. We'll obviously talk about details with that as we head through the coming week. Temperatures over the next week, again watching that cooler, drier air mass settle in across the northeast region as we head through the weekend. This is getting into Sunday and Monday now. We will eventually see that heat that is building now across the northern high plains begin to expand across the Midwest as we get into early next week, and then finally into the northeast region as we get into the end of next week. So definitely looking for a warm up as we head into the June 16th, 17th, 18th time frame. That's going to mean a lot more drying here. We've seen a good amount of drying from the central and southern plains into the Midwest and the Northeast as we look at the soil moisture change over the last 10 days. The first 10 days of June, of course, crystal ball coming up the middle here is the dividing line there. But with windy conditions across parts of the high plains, we'll continue to watch for drought across that region. Not too concerned about drought as we talk about the Northeast region here, but definitely something we're concerned about as we look off toward the Southwest. Let's just finish with a look at high temperatures then as we head through the weekend into early next week. 60s and 70s for the highs across the Northeast on Friday. Much cooler as we head into the weekend. 50s and 60s setting up on Saturday. A little warmer, 60s and 70s once again on Sunday. We begin our slow warm-up as we head into early next week with 80s returning by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon.